Why do you build me up? Buttercup, baby, just to let me down and mess me around, and the worst of all.
What is going on, guys? I am back with another review of a day at an amusement park, and this time I will be talking about the very first day of my first ever trip to Cedar Point. And I did this with EB too, and it was the first time he went since 2018. So anyways, let's just get right into talking about this day. So when EB and I first got up at Hotel Breakers, we started getting ready for early entry, and then we headed down to the park for early entry. And first thing, when we got in the park for early entry, we attempted to ride Wicked Twister because I wanted to make that our first ride of the day, but there was not even a ride op in the station, which was a sign that it wasn't open for early entry, sadly. And so anyways, at least we got a preview of the station for Wicked Twister. And so anyway, after we left Wicked Twister, because that was an epic fail, we headed to Gatekeeper as our first ride of the day, and I rode in the back row, and it was amazing. But I got cheated out of this trip. You'll find out more about why in the when I review the next day we had at Cedar Point, because it's horrible. But I got cheated out of on this trip. Only one ride on Gatekeeper, and so that was the only ride I had on it. Was in the back row that morning, which was sad. But anyways, it was still a good ride on Gatekeeper for me. It was my first B&M winged coaster, and it was my 65th coaster. So after that, I was halfway to 70. And so anyways, after Gatekeeper, we rode Raptor, which is officially my favorite B&M invert now, guys. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Raptor took the #1 spot after I rode it. I just love its snappiness and stuff. And it was a good ride we had on Raptor too. And so, anyways, after Raptor, we headed to Millennium Force, which was a really good Intamin Giga coaster, and it's my favorite Intamin Giga coaster over the other one I've ridden, Intimidator 305. I just like Millennium Force more. And so, anyways, after I rode Millennium Force, we rode, which is now officially my favorite B&M floorless, Rougarou. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Cedar Point is now home to my favorite B&M invert, favorite Intamin Giga coaster, and my favorite B&M floorless, all in one park. Isn't that crazy? I just love how fast-paced Rougarou is, and it has some elements that you wouldn't find on Hydra too. And so that was a really good morning ride we had on Rougarou, and we were towards the front, and we were towards the back. We rode it towards the back, which meant I got whipped over that pre-drop, and I got whipped over the actual drop too. And so anyways, I meant to say we rode towards the back on that ride we had on Rougarou, which is officially my favorite B&M floorless now. And so anyways, after Rougarou, we headed to Iron Dragon, which was meh, but it was my second Aero suspended coaster because I'd ridden Vortex at Canada's Wonderland 3 years prior to this. And so, anyways, after Iron Dragon, which was really nothing that special, we headed to Valraven, which was my first B&M dive coaster, and my official 70th coaster too. It was amazing after I got off of Valraven, celebrating my first B&M dive and my 70th coaster too. It was all amazing. And so anyways, after we rode my 70th coaster and my first ever B&M dive, we rode in the back row, and it was and let me tell you about the wait before I tell you about anything else. So the wait for it was eventful because the female ride-op kept trying to distract everybody with trivia questions, but they couldn't distract us enthusiasts. We knew all the answers. So when they sent out the third empty train, and I was like, you know what? And then started taking off my shoes and socks in Valraven Station because you know how I like to earth on inverted rides. And so, anyways, I did that in Valraven Station because I figured since they were running empty cycles, and since it would save me time of, like, all I'd have to do is put my shoes and socks in the bin and then, like, get on the ride. And they actually made me take off my glasses for it because I knew, I knew since Cedar Point was so strict about loose articles, like, I knew it was gonna happen at one point, and plus I knew it was gonna happen to me at one point at an amusement park, and like Cedar Point's like really enforcing it, like my gosh. And so, anyways, after Valraven, we headed to Melt Bar and Grilled, which was the restaurant I was hyper about when it first debuted back in my 8th grade days. And so, anyways, after we ate at Melt Bar and Grilled, we headed to Wicked Twister since I was really wanting a ride in on that because you know how we attempted to ride it that morning and it was like closed. There was no ride op in this station. So we got on Wicked Twister and like you know, remember how like Cedar Point's really enforcing like loose articles going to bin. Well, a ride op saw that Evie's phone was like clearly saw Evie's phone when we went to check out restraints, and she made him like she took his phone and put it in the bin for him because she she thought it was gonna fall out for reals, and she was like, no, it will fall out. And so, anyways, Cedar Point's like crazy enforcing their loose article policy. And so, anyways, after Wicked Twister, we headed to Windseeker for my for my third ever Windseeker. I'm sorry. I rode the one at King's Dominion in Canada's Wonderland prior to riding this one, and it was Evie's first ever Windseeker, and he loved it. Like, he thought the restraints were more comfortable. And, like, I've never ridden a Starflyer, so I don't know what a Starflyer feels like, but I do know what a Windseeker feels like. And it was still good to get on a Windseeker because we got a good view of the beach, the parking lot, the park, everything. And so, anyways, after that nice ride we had on Windseeker, we headed to Steel Vengeance, which was, like, a long wait. And right in the middle of the wait, the employee made me put my glasses in the midline locker. Like, they're really enforcing their loose article policy. That's another example right there. They've said from the previous policy that Steel Vengeance had that you had to put your phone in a locker, and so like we heard them say on the audio that no cell phones were allowed in line. And so anyways, we pulled the 2018 way and put our phones and stuff in the locker before entering the line, and so we were suffering without our phones until we realized that there was like a locker section like in the middle of the line where you could store your stuff, because like the employee made me put my glasses in those lockers prior to riding Steel Vengeance. And so anyways, it was still a good ride on Steel Vengeance. It's my favorite coaster at Cedar Point, and I think it was my favorite ride that day too. We got like a ton of airtime, and I mean like on every single moment where you get airtime, we got it. Like, it was crazy. It was a crazy ride on Steel Vengeance, and it was my first ever RMC, so I had a reason to celebrate afterwards. And so, anyways, after that ride on Steel Vengeance, we headed to Pipe Scream, which was my first ever Zamperla Surf Dog disco, and it was a really fun ride. And so, anyways, after Pipe Scream, we headed to Magnum, which absolutely sucked. I like Steel Force better than it. Magnum like really beat us up, and they made me put my bag in a locker since I'd gotten a Valraven shirt and a Valraven drawstring bag earlier in the day after we got off of that. They wanted to make sure that was safe, so they made me put that in a locker. Again, that's another example of Cedar Point enforcing their loose article policy. And so, anyway, after Magnum XL 200, we headed to Top Thrill Dragster, and oh my gosh, it may be my number 2 coaster at Cedar Point, guys. It's crazy the way it like took off and stuff. And so anyways, it was my first ever Strata coaster too, and it was a really good ride we had on Top Thrill Dragster. And so anyways, after that ride we had on it, we headed to Corkscrew since EB also still needed the credit on that. And so anyways, Corkscrew was my 75th coaster, and it was in the middle aerodynamics coaster. And so anyways, after that ride on Corkscrew, we headed to Power Tower, which was a really good drop tower. It goes even higher than Dominator. We went on the green side, and it was even better than Dominator Green. And so anyways, yeah, that was a really good ride we had on Power Tower. And so anyway, after Power Tower, we headed to Blue Streak, which was my 75th cred. 76th cred. I'm sorry. It was my 76th cred, and because Corkscrew was my 75th. And so anyway, that was a good ride on Blue Streak. I think Blue Streak's better than Thunderhawk, to be honest. And so anyways, after Blue Streak, we headed to Hugo's Italian Kitchen, where I got the personal pepperoni pizza, and it was really good. And so anyways, after Hugo's Italian Kitchen, we got about like 3 or 4 rides in on Wicked Twister. And after that, after our first ride on Wicked Twister we had after Hugo's Italian Kitchen, I you know how I walked through Possessed's queue line barefoot after Dominator Green? Yeah, remember that time? Well, I tried to do that the same way with Wicked Twister since we were marathoning it, and the ride-off told me to put my shoes on, so I wasn't able to get away with it, but I'm completely neutral about that. I questioned that something like that was going to happen when back at Thorny's opening day, when EB first suggested I do it after Dominator Green when we were getting on Possessed, that I walked through Possessed's queue line barefoot, and that time was successful and I didn't get caught, but this time I did though. And it was really funny when I got caught though, but it was alright. And so anyways, we still had a good little mini Wicked Twister marathon because, gotta appreciate the intimate impulses before we go. And so anyways, after that mini Wicked Twister marathon, we headed back to Hotel Breakers, and that officially ended our first day at Cedar Point. So that concludes this review of our first day at Cedar Point. So make sure to reply to me your thoughts on this video, and make sure to check out my merch store on Bonfire. I have everything you could possibly want that Bonfire allows you to sell, like coffee mugs, short sleeve shirts, tank tops, and long sleeve shirts, and sweatshirts, and all the things. So make sure to go check that out. I'll have a link in the description, and I will see you in the next